and we are here today to talk a little bit about which is our process in a B2B company, the design process. Because in the very beginning, there was in Bluecore, there was no focus on design, and there was literally no UI. And right now we are switching to a full user-facing UI, and design is one of the principles of the whole company, not just for three of us. And so, said that, I think you can speak about it.
Yeah, hey guys. Just as a quick question, anyone here design for B2B companies? Do we have any B2B designers? I see a bunch of hands. Okay, cool. Some of this is for you guys. Cool, so I'm gonna talk a little bit about B2B versus B2C design. We often hear a lot about the design world within the B2C world, or business to consumer. Bluecore is a B2B company. We sell to e-commerce companies, which sounds really exciting. But anyways, B2C design, you hear about great design at companies like Warby Parker or Facebook or Snapchat or BuzzFeed. You hear about amazing design happening in B2C, and often B2B gets neglected. Cool, so if you're a B2C designer, you go to parties and automatically your friends know the impact of your work because they use your apps and they see your ads on the subway. They totally know what you do. So you're this guy. You're that guy at parties because you're a B2C designer. In comes B2B. In general, B2B companies have just not focused and prioritized design. With their B2C counterparts, if you're a consumer and you download an app and it has bad design, you're gonna delete it, go to the competitor, download it for free within 30 seconds, and there you go. So design is crucial for B2C companies. You need impeccable design to survive. But with B2B companies, they're really long sales cycles. So you don't or companies often feel like they don't need good design to keep their customers with them because, okay, it takes 9 months to switch to the competitor, and there are only 3 others out there. They don't have many tools to choose from. So as a B2B designer, you understand the importance of design, but oftentimes the companies you work for don't, and that can be really, really frustrating. But why is there really a difference? Totally understand those factors, but when it comes to design, and we all get this as designers, there really shouldn't be a difference because at the end of the day, we're all designing for people. So when we think about this at Bluecore, we really try not to even talk about B2B. We've translated that and we call it now B2P, business to people. We're all about B2P. And what that means is, as a designer for a B2C company versus a designer for a B2B company, you're designing those same experiences or those same applications. The only difference is whether that consumer is using it at home or in their office. That's literally the only difference. So although the B2B caliber of design has been lower, it's really important as a B2B designer to try and push yourself and see what your counterparts in the B2C world are doing. And that's something that we've tried to embrace because we felt it frustrating to look at our competitors' tools, and often we laugh. It's really bad. But it's even more of a push. So we really try to take design principles and try and go into a creative world where we're looking and we're gaining inspiration from everyone out there, not just our B2B counterparts. So cool, so this is where we landed. We landed on, this is our design vision. Design starts with people, as we all know as designers. In our world, there's no B2B or B2C, it's just B2P. And it was really important for us to when we transferred from this white glove service where we had literally no UI, and we transferred into a company that really cared about design. It was important for not just us designers to care about this, but for everyone in the company, especially the executive team. And we could not have done this if they didn't embrace this, if they didn't invest time and money and people in this. Cool, so Connie's gonna give us a little background on how we got here and our history, which from our meager beginnings to now, which might still be meager beginnings, but yeah.
Cool. So as Rachel mentioned, I'm going to talk about the history of Bluecore from a designer's point of view. And for us, it's really a story told in 3 parts. So the first part is what we call BD, before designers. These were a little bit of the dark days. I don't know, maybe that makes us designers sound like we're like really important, but at this point when the company was founded, everything was white gloved, meaning that we would do everything for our customers. Our customers sign up with us. Once everything's set up, they don't need to do anything. They set it and forget it. If they needed anything updated, their emails, etc., they would just email us and we would do everything for them. This was not the best, obviously, solution because our customer success team was working like day and night. They were getting like super burnt out, and it's just, wasn't great for the company in terms of scale. So we thought maybe we need to do something about it. So we hired our first designers. At first, the designers were embedded in the engineering team. We didn't have a product team or a separate design team. We didn't have any product roadmap. All we knew was that we were here to help make our coworkers' lives easier by creating tools for them that could to optimize their tasks that they need to do for our customers. Again, we realized this wasn't like the best solution because we were really just putting a Band-Aid on the real issue, which was that our internal employees was still doing 100% of the work. And secondly, probably more importantly, from talking to our customers, we realized that they really wanted control of their own data, which is pretty obvious when we think about it now, but back then we're like, wait a minute, it was like a eureka moment. So then we realized for our company to succeed and to thrive, we really need to invest in design. And we made design a differentiator. And like Rachel said, a lot of the exec team was super on board to the point where it's one of our 5 core values for the company to make design so important. So starting from like about a year and a half ago, we really put our heads down and started to build and design a lot of customer-facing UI tools. And you could see since then some of the results now. The monthly active customers increased by 343%, which you could see once design became a core focus of the company, like in the graph, it just like totally went up and to the right. And in terms of the bottom line, this graph is showing 2 product launches. One, the green one was a non-design focused product, and the blue one is once we really started to make design a focal point of the company. And the design focused product grew 4 times faster in terms of revenue per quarter. And the non-design focused product was actually our first core offering. Is not just some like small thing. So this was a big win for us. And we're gonna give a few case studies about how we got here. And Rachel's gonna start on that.
Cool. So one of our core use cases for our customers, e-commerce companies, is for them to create an audience and send them some sort of marketing campaign, whether that be an email or an ad or an SMS. They need to start by creating an audience. Who do they want to target? Who do they want to send this to? So as you see here, this is a beautiful YAML file. I do not know what YAML is, but my engineers do. Anyways, they used to code up one of these YAML files for every single campaign that went out for our customers. So you can imagine tens of thousands of these files being created and managed by engineers for all of our customers. That's what we used to do. This was the before state of creating an audience. So what was our approach? How do we tackle this problem of 10,000 plus YAML files? So our initial mistake was, okay, let's go to our users, who at the time were our customer success folks and our internal engineers. But they weren't our future users. They weren't our users of which we wanted to adopt the future product that we were creating. So we quickly realized that while we were getting a lot of great input internally, that wasn't the right approach. So we actually went to our customers and did some user research, and we did a whole bunch of interviews. And what we realized was we were actually not thinking about this correctly. What we were thinking about doing, converting this YAML file just into a UI with a bunch of drop-downs and options, wasn't the right approach because we were missing a huge opportunity for our customers. What these YAML files were doing, they were creating an audience based on past behavior of their customers. So, okay, a customer purchased a product, let's put them in an audience. A customer did X or Y, let's put them in the audience. But what we realized when we spoke to our customers, they want to know what's going to happen tomorrow. Can you predict what my customer is going to do in a week from now? What their lifetime value is? Are they going to unsubscribe from this email if I send it to them? That was what they really wanted to know, and we weren't even delivering that with the YAML files. So it was really important for us to think beyond just what we were doing currently and what we wanted to accomplish in a year from now or 2 years from now. So here is a little sneak preview. So this is what those YAML files turned into. So you can see this little GIF of all the 6 different categories that you can slice and dice your customers. So of these 6 categories, 2 of them were what you could do with the YAML file, and 4 were now based on what our customers told us. Those 4 predictive categories. And instead of this just becoming a tool to help our internal teams offload some of their work, this ended up becoming an entire product. This was a very successful product. This became, instead of just converting that YAML file into a cool tool, we now sell this, and this is an extremely profitable product for us. So here you can see it's spitting out, we'll just get to the end state. It slices and dices all millions of their users, and out comes an audience of people based on all those attributes. Some predictive, and some based on what they've done. Cool. The main learning here that we had was really thinking about version 5. Obviously, as designers, you want to design V1, but making sure that you really think about V5 in the onset is important, and then you can work into it. Cool.
Thanks, Rachel. So as I mentioned earlier, when the company started, everything was white glove. We had to do everything for our users. And one of the most common things that our internal employees had to do was creating an email template. So the previous flow was that our customers would basically send us a PSD file of what they designed to be their email template. And then once we have it, we would have to slice it to get all the PNGs, etc. And then we would need to code it in HTML and CSS and all that stuff. And then this wouldn't be the end of it because there will be a lot of back and forth. You know, the customers will need to see the coded email, and then like they have some comments, and then it like comes back and forth. So just to create one email template could have taken weeks just to finalize one. And we actually, because there are so many email templates that we had to do, we had to hire a team just to do this task. Again, obviously not ideal, not scalable, and we realized we needed to do something to make this a more efficient process. So what we did was we did some research about what we should do. We talked to our customers to find out what their current process for designing email templates was. We wanted to find out who's actually involved in doing this. You know, is it the email marketer, their in-house designers, whoever else. We wanted to find out what their challenges were. We also, did an inventory of all the email templates that we've already done for our customers just to see what is common in terms of the patterns. Like, are there like similar layouts, that a lot of them use? Do they all use kind of like the same kind of components, social media buttons, et cetera, et cetera. And we also did a landscape analysis of what was out there. We know there are a lot of tools out there that does this that are already really good. So we wanted to, know what the best practices are, and maybe avoid some of the, like the usability traps that we see with the other tools. So based on that, this is what we came up with. This is a WYSIWYG email template editor. And as you can see, it's purely drag and drop. It's super easy to use. On the left side, you could drag in a widget. To the right side and add images you want from your image library. You could add text, you could add buttons, etc. One thing from doing inventory and talking to our customer that we realized is that sometimes there are a lot of edge cases that, that does not fit kind of within, let's say, the 80% of like the rest of the templates. So in order to kind of make this tool easy to use and not super feature bloated, we wanted to focus on like the most common use cases. And that helped us feel, I think, in terms of the design process, helped us focus on those common use cases. So the takeaway is basically for us just to think about the 80% and optimize for those users. And then, in terms of the V1, and as we get more information as we launch it and get more information from our current customers that are using it, then we could add and like edit and add all the features that we might need. All right, Francesco?
I'm the bread of this sandwich. So as they said, so we allow the user to create a campaign or to create creatives for the campaign. But the other thing is that we have a lot of data, and with this data, actually, we can find opportunities for them, like what could be like the next campaign that they can run, or like the new A/B test or whatever. So right now, I want to walk you through which is like the process that our internal user are going through every time that they have to find like a new opportunities for them. So everything start with like a lot of research in terms of like the data that we have, so like an analytic process where they have to find like the next nugget, and when they found that, they have to make up a presentation, probably call the client and set up like a time for the presentation, or do the presentation directly on the phone. Yes, I like coffee. And then send an email back and forth to set up like the next step, and then finally probably prepare like the campaign and set up everything to go. So we don't want obviously to replace our internal user, our customer success team, but some of this process is very manual. So it's not like a huge like research, a creative thing. So we want to actually create an automation for that. So we create like, there is a feature coming up now, and I want to show you a little bit what was the approach. So in the very beginning was, okay, how we can give the ability to the user to be owner of their own data. So like how to read all the data that they have. And once we send them like this new opportunity, how can they trust us? Like, how can they know that the data that we are collecting is the right one? So how can we be transparent with that? Transparent with them. And the other obviously big question was like, how can we show these opportunities? Like, so in the very beginning we were thinking like a cool dashboard full of graphs, and actually that was what we designed in the beginning, and where you can actually take action from there. But after some usability tests, we end up with the result that the user really want to know what they should do next. So it was cool to have access to the data, but at the same time, they really want to know what I have to do next. So this is the result. And as you can see, it's like a mix, like an interface that is basically mixing the Twitter or Facebook paradigm with the dashboard. So it's like a mix. I don't know if you see that good in the monitor, but basically it's a mix of content and graphs. And so the big takeaway from this for us was like, first of all, don't like focus on the research on your own, on your field. So in this case, we got inspired by another industry that was like a social network, for instance. But obviously the big one is like removing. So, but this is, I think this is pretty something that all the designers in this room probably experience. So through the iteration, just like start removing. And so this is actually how, this is our process. So it was cool to share this with you. I hope you enjoy it. And if you have any question, we are here to. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Probably time for 2 questions. is in your design stack? So what are the top 2 or 3 tools you're using there?
You want to? Okay.
Designer. Yeah, I would say our top 3 tools, Sketch. We are big Sketch/InVision folks. We love both. And we love Craft. And then I think our third, which I'm a huge fan of, I hope most people here use something like it, is Full Story. It's awesome. It lets you really dive in and see exactly what your users are doing. And we find it to be a great tool that we use during our beta period. So after we release something into the wild, we just watch users use it. And it's super low cost, high efficiency. It's a really great tool.
Also a little bit pretty. But and also a lot of whiteboard for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have any other?
No,
That's fine.
InVision.
Hey,
Hi. Hi.
so I have one question, which is, how much time did you spend doing user research and talking to customers, interviewing customers versus doing the actual?
So not nearly enough as we want to be honest. A lot of times we might have time to speak to a few customers, right before we start a project to get more information. And then sometimes we would have time to do usability tests with some customers as well. Being in a B2B company, it's harder to find, I feel like, customers or users that would be doing the same like workflow and use cases and things like that. So that's a little bit of a challenge. But we definitely want to do more and need to improve on talking to more customers. Do you guys have anything to add?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Your computer.